The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. We're on Mannin Line today. Open line through till 1. Call 66 13 68. Text 166 177. WhatsApp 166 177. Email studio manxradio.com. So what do you think about what Ann Corlett's been saying about this delays to the safe living scheme? As she said, that 20 mile an hour zone encompasses several Douglas schools and could be the solution. DOI's failure to implement that living street scheme in Douglas, despite Tynwald declaring its support, is a source of frustration. Highway improvements, more crossings, traffic calming measures, and 20 mile an hour speed limits in residential areas and around schools. So if you've got any thoughts, even if you don't live in Douglas Central, any thoughts? Text, email, call, WhatsApp, or anything else that's been on your mind? Julian's on. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How are you doing?
Very well. What's on your mind?
Just looking at the recent Ørsted presentations, I noticed a few new details about the wind turbines that they're planning for the Moor Valley wind farm off the east of the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Ørsted's diagram indicated an overall height of the turbines of 389 metres. So that's 1,276 feet high, Andy. Now, that suggests that they're looking at using a next generation of turbines that are in a testing phase now that Sweden are mulling over using, but they'll be 50% higher than the ones that we see from Walney. So for context, these new turbines will be the same height as Windy Corner above sea level. They'll be 4 times the height of Bradda Head, or equivalent to a 98-storey skyscraper. Or if you want to picture it another way, it will be 18 Laxey wheels stacked on top of each other. The span of the blades will be 2 3/4 lengths of the Manxmanship. I'm just wondering if people on the Isle of Man are going to realise what 100 of these 98-storey high wind turbines are going to look like for their visual amenity.
Very noticeable.
Well, I'm just thinking things like, sunrise in the morning, the people that live, say, on Ramsey Prom there looking out towards the pier, or people in Laxey, or people down at even Portyvollen or Mackald. There's going to be an awful lot of flicker when you've got an array of 100 of these things with the sun coming up behind them. And if you like the view out towards, the UK and stuff, bye-bye to that as well.
This is in our waters, so we're going to be making money from this, presumably.
Well, I saw on social media, some people are questioning. I saw one account where the actual deal is 42 times less than what the Crown Estate has been paying to other jurisdictions in the region of £2.5 billion. Now, I stand to be corrected on that, but it's just interesting that I wonder if that is true or not. But that's just in the wind. So it'd be interesting if somebody could come on and say whether that is absolutely wrong or whether, the deal that's being struck is nowhere near as good as what other jurisdictions like, Walney have had, or Hornsey off East Anglia. It also tests me as well about things like what's it going to do to the fishing industry. We've had this talk before. You've got the steam packet, what they're going to do when if it's stormy weather and they've got to make tracks to the nearest point and they can't. Because don't forget, Morecambe, Morgan and Mona, they're going to be 2 and a bit times the size of the Isle of Man in their span across Morecambe Bay and all the way down. So it's kind of encroaching all the way around. So if you've got a layer of them on the Isle of Man, and then you've got to get past all the other ones that are running all the way down the coast from Barrow in Furness, makes you wonder, how's a steam packet going to cope with this?
Well, presumably they've spoken to the steam packet because that's the route that the steam packet takes to Belfast, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know. I've not heard if the steam packet are happy with the answers they've had yet, though.
No. I mean, did you go to the presentations at all?
I got to see one or two of the bits from them. Yeah, I had a bit of time to have a look.
Okay, so is this a dead cert? Is it definitely going ahead? Have they got the money for this?
Well, I mean, they want to do it, obviously. I do question how a company like Ørsted that's had many, many billions knocked off their share value, and they've been knocked back on several of their huge wind developments like the ones off New York and New Jersey. Although it does make me wonder if they're getting what I tend to refer to these days as zombie money, because Ørsted is 50% owned by the Danish government. So any other company would be dying by now when you've lost getting on for 10 billion euros. However, if they're getting unlimited taxpayer money from another jurisdiction, it makes me wonder if they're just keeping propped up.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact is, at some point, if their financial model isn't viable, I'm not saying it isn't, but if it weren't viable, then the accountants in any company, any organisation, would start waving a red flag. And I've not heard that one's been waved.
But if 50% of the shareholding is by a government that has a political mood to do it, doesn't that start to muddy the waters in terms of how the accounts are being done? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you would have to ask someone else this question, but if 50% of the government is government owned and they've got a real strong will to do it, how do we know how it's being accounted for? I mean, some people say that Denmark tried to make out that the wind is cheap because they heavily tax in other things. But if you own half the company, you can do whatever you like when you're putting your little tick boxes in on the credit and debit balance sheet.
Well, we haven't heard definite words from the Manx utilities people as to what's going to happen, how much money we're going to be getting for them putting the wind farm on our seabed, how much obviously it's coming back through the interconnector, which is coming from Penwortham near Preston to somewhere around Groudle Glen or Groudle Bay. So, yeah. I mean, we don't quite know how it's going to get from Groudle onto the main circuit. And really how much it's going to benefit us. Nobody's really talking in fine detail at the moment.
Well, that would be interesting, because I think the customary amount of money, I think our friend Bonzo said it was around 100 million a year it would be expected. But if it's 2.5 million, it's not really of much benefit to us, and it's all downside to anybody that lives on the east side of the island, because these things are going to be visible from Onchan all the way up to the point of Ayr.
It just depends on how much Manx Utilities pay for the electricity. I mean, it could be that we get free electricity for that, and it's a kind of, we get discounted electricity on the wholesale to Manx Utility for providing this, and if you like, a smaller amount of money.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how kind Ørsted are, considering, if you remember last year, every single harbour that handles Ørsted stuff were all on strike at the fact of how terribly that they were treating the workers that were putting the blades and everything on and taking the stuff out offshore. So I don't know whether I don't know if anybody's ever said that we're going to get free electricity. But, other things that worry me is that story I mentioned the other day about 100 times the amount of microplastics washing up on coastal shores. Well, if you think about that, if you've got a plastic bag, it takes quite a few years before it kind of disintegrates into microplastic. It'll be bits and pieces for a while. So you're kind of looking, if you've got 100 times the amount of microplastics, all of a sudden, unprecedented within 6 years, you really need to have something that's generating microplastics on a huge scale all of a sudden, don't you?
I mean, the whole question of microplastics is kind of moot point, because while ever people are throwing plastics willy-nilly into the ocean all over the world, it's a bit late to be worrying about microplastics when people are throwing, hundreds of thousands of tons of plastic into the sea every year.
And then you've got these recent stories off the Orkneys with cetacean beachings, whales and dolphins, like 5 times the normal amount. And if you remember, the Orkneys didn't want these turbines. Just about everyone, the councils, the people were all up in arms about it. And
it's weird. Nobody's come up with a reason for why that pod of whales were beached, have they?
No, I mean, I think off New Jersey, they've got like 7 times the normal amount of whales washing up on beaches dead. I think if you look up Luna, this is a 41-year-old whale that's been going up and down, no problem whatsoever. And there's another one that's quite a young humpback whale. They've just washed up dead the other day, and everyone's up in arms about it because of this seismic percussion testing that they do to check to see where's the best place to drill for the 100 or 200 stanchions that they put the wind farms on. Yeah. So, got to wonder.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
All right, good to talk to you. Oh, Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy? How was your weekend?
Well, very well, thank you. Yes, it was all go.
All go. Were you in the boat race? I didn't see you rowing there at the Viking boat race.
Sadly, no. I had a bad arm.
Oh, not again. That's how many years on the row is that now?
12.
12. A good dozen. So, I said on Friday that I was going to be going to the meeting for the Ørsted presentation, which I did. So I can just report back on what I thought, and I heard David Quirk talking about it the other day, and I have a slightly different view on it once I start actually asking them awkward questions. So the first thing I have to say is, when these people attend, I find it interesting that they have to have security on the door when they go to these places. And again, the same thing happened. When Morgan and Mona came over here, they brought over 2 private security officers with them to go to the presentation. I know that for a fact because I had a phone call from one of them before he came. So I find it interesting that these people have to have this type of protection around them, which suggests to me that they're getting a lot of pushback in various places that they go to. So, coming on to the meeting, just on what Julian was saying there about, you were talking about if the figures don't add up. On one of their boards there, this would be more attractive for companies seeking to deliver on their own environmental and social governance objectives. So we're back to ESGs again, which again, Julian has raised a lot of times, I've raised a lot of times, that this government is following DEIs and ESGs, and that is half the problem around the world at the moment, is these key words. And that's why governments are flailing and flailing all over the place, because they're following all this ESGs. So I asked a couple of relevant questions. First of all, they are merchants, so they can only sell to certain people. They suggested to me that they would be selling back to the island the access of the electricity that will be manufactured or got through these wind turbines. No price was given. 2015, the seabed agreement was signed by the government. I asked a question about the 2.3 million, and it was kind of as a grunt and a shrug. And I suggested that this was 40 odd times less than what Crown Estates are getting, which is probably why Prince Charles is running around in a nice gold carriage, and we're not got it over here. So that's out of line as well, if this figure is true. Now, the other point of it as well, there was a few points that I made there. They were saying that they're promoting 30 jobs on the island. I don't know what that would be, because these would be skilled jobs. So I don't know whether these are going to be local people that's going to be employed. I must say that the presentation was very professional. Everyone had their 3 legs of man on the side of their shirts alongside the Norway symbol. A lot of money spent on it. And as Julian said, the height of these, 389 metres, which, in another comparison, we were talking the other day about, was it a 12-storey building going up in Douglas, and we said how high that would be. Andy, was it 12 or 14, I think?
Yeah.
In comparison, these would be 92 stories high, effectively. Now, while I was there was a lot of people at the start of this presentation. By the time I'd left and asked the questions, wasn't so many. But I did notice that not many people used the Oculus to look at how this was going to look to the local people. And I did, and I've got to say that it's appalling, really. From Baldrine, basically, to the dog mills past Ramsey, you will see nothing but wind turbines within our radius. Now, if you look at the ones that we're looking at now and how visible they are and how the distance that they are away, these are going to be within our 10 or 12 mile radius. And very concerning because, all you're going to see on that whole coast is a whole row of wind turbines going right the way up the coast. The other question I did ask, which is relevant, this wind turbine farm is going to go right over the Kroger gas field. I asked the question if it was, and grudgingly they said yes. I then asked the question, would this affect the Kroger gas field? And again, they kind of slipped and swerved the answer to that one in so much as, well, we have in other places done some kind of arrangement, but there was no distinctive answer to me on whether the Kroger gas field would be affected if it was going to be utilised. And again, I would have to ask the question, is this purposely being left because they knew this was in place? Again, it's down to how much this is going to cost, how much we're going to get back. Are we going to save the world by doing this? And I've got to really say that the whole aesthetics of that side of the coast will be affected by the sight range of these. And anyone who gets the chance, if they still can, to go and look at the Oculus presentation. Very nice presentation, the sea lapping up, and you can hear it, the sea lapping up, and the seagulls going over. They didn't see the cut-up seagulls, just the flying ones. And it was a very nice presentation, showed you the wind turbines as best they can at the daytime, and in the evening and at night.
Of course, at night time they've got red lights on, haven't they?
They absolutely have, Andy. So all you see at any part of the coastline, whether you're on Laxey Beach, Baldrine, or both Ramsey beaches, all you will see is flashing red lights in front of you. So I'll leave this with the people. All we're doing, likes of me and Julian, is reporting this stuff back. It's down to the people to make their decision of how they want this island to go and to pressure your politicians who effectively, along with the civil servants, are going to decide this. So it's down to the people. All we can do is report back the information that we've seen. And, people should look carefully at the size and aesthetics of these.
OK, all right, June, thanks for that.
Take care, Andy.
Good to hear from you. 24 minutes past 12. Wilf's on as well. Hi, Wilf.
I was. It's more or less been said now, but because I just heard you on first about the Ørsted wind farm, and I went into the courthouse here in Ramsey to have a look at this presentation. Very posh, very pleasant people, all the rest of it, a whole gang of them, and I thought, this is big money, this stuff here. And gifts given free. Pens and pads to write on and all this sort of thing, and a form to fill in what you thought and all this. See, so of course I filled one in. I don't know what, they probably put mine in the bin when they read it. But anyway, it's right across Ramsey Bay, and the size of these things that comes into it as well. But the problem that I see with this lot, no matter how much rent you get for putting these things there, where they want to put them is on the Bahama Bank. And the Bahama Bank has always been the fishing ground for, I don't know about the scallops and things, but it's always been the fishing ground for cod fishing in the past and all that. And it's a kind of a nursery area, it's very shallow and all that. And that, of course, that's the reason, because they don't have to go so deep, you see, to get down onto solid ground to put these things in.
So are the fishing boats going to be allowed to weave in and out of these turbines?
Well, that's another thing, you see. Now, I don't know, does it affect scallops or quinnies? But I've heard from a friend of mine who did lobster fishing and all his life, and all sorts of fishing. And he has a friend that does charter fishing across where these things are. And since the charter fishing, since they put these windmills up, all the fish have deserted because they vibrate. Now, if you get a wreck on the seabed or something, or a big rock, fish will shelter behind it, but that thing doesn't move. It's permanent. These things are vibrating all the time. Now, I don't know, does that affect scallops or queenies or not, but it's certainly, apparently, according to this man, it does affect fish. And the Bahama Bank has been a main fishing area, well, ever since forever. But the other thing was as well, was the size of these things. If you look from the middle of the promenade towards the Queen's Pier, you look then beyond there, and then there's the land, and then Mackle Head. And you can see them beyond the land, higher than the land. You don't just look out to sea and see them going round out at sea on the waterline. These things are sticking up above the land. And I thought, no, that's not on. I'm afraid no matter how much they get for that, it's just not worth it.
How far are they going to be offshore? So. How near is the nearest one going to be?
Well, the Bahama Bank is about 6 miles or so.
Well, the Bahama Bank is where the Radio Caroline was anchored on Bahama Bank, wasn't she?
Yes. Yeah. Well, she wasn't quite that far off. She's in between the bank and the land. It's about 3 or 4 miles out. She was. Wherever you went in the bay, it always seemed to be the same distance. You were the same distance away, because the bay is a half round, you see. But she always seemed to be in the same place. But that was another thing I was going to on about is we're supposed to be going to celebrate the Radio Caroline and all that, and of course it was the English government that took it off us. They said they had to go, and that was it. We had to let them go. And all I could see when I was young and that was going, all it was doing was it was good for the Isle of Man.
It was, yeah.
All the advertising and all the rest of it, you know.
I'll be there, Wilf, Saturday night, Saturday the 3rd of August. I'll be in the Mitre talking about it.
Right, okay. Well, I might have a look in then.
You do that.
Yeah, okay.
So as far as you're concerned then, I mean, this array of wind turbines, yes or no?
There's only well, it's no because of that. There's only one way I would say yes, and that's free electric. That's the only way. I wouldn't rent seabed, but I'd say you put enough windmills up for the suit the Isle of Man, and we'll have free electric. Well, then I'll go for that maybe.
All right.
But other than that, no.
Okay. All right, Wilf. Thanks for that.
All right.
Good to hear from you. Thanks, Wilf. And Robert's on now. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
I was just thinking, there's a phrase called "you have to use what you've got," and I think never was a true word spoke for sustainability. And certainly getting in the coins and all the rest of it, and the energy meters for using energy deposits and the things that we've got. So I just think that we've got to use what we've got. If we don't use what we've got, then we'll lose it. Someone else will take it, you know.
So what do you think we should do? Do you think we should use the Kroger gas?
I think it's twofold. I think there's twofold. I don't think we should use the Kroger gas yet, although we should someday. I think we should put that down for generations to come. I think that this electricity windmill, I don't have a problem with windmills. I think they're beautiful. They're a sign of the times in terms of technology. So I think they're a big plus. I think the vast majority of people who are moaning away are scaremongers. I think people are pissed off with listening to them, excuse my French, but, you know, what's wrong with technology? I mean, it serves a purpose. There's another thing as well. I don't know if you know, there's a sustainability bond the Isle of Man government's got.
A sustainability bond, yeah?
Yeah, they have a sustainability bond. I think it's 2021 or 22. I can't remember now. How much of that has been sold, and what are we going to do with it in terms of getting what we want out of it? I think is a big question that some of the members of the will need to come to terms with.
Okay. I don't know about that, but Robert, we'll try and find out. Thanks for calling us today.
Been anywhere nice, love?
Yeah, I've just had a wonderful weekend away with my granddaughter, and I didn't spend a penny. I traded in some gold jewellery, watches, silverware and old cameras with Vintage Cash Cow.
Vintage Cash Cow?
That's the one. They pay a fair price for all kinds of antiques and collectibles, and these were just collecting dust in my garage. Visit vintagecashcow.co.uk to order your free postage pack.
Mike has got the conister feeling. Because despite his busy life, getting the finance to sort some home improvements was quicker and easier than he ever dreamt with Conister Bank.
Got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, yeah!
Ooh, though not even Conister can help improve his singing. Apply online today at conisterbank.co.in and you'll get the Conister feeling too. All loans are subject to status, terms and conditions apply, early settlement fees apply.
Experience a true celebration of island life where farming comes first at the 2024 Southern Agricultural Show. With 2 full days of local entertainment, livestock exhibits, local traders and more, it's sure to be a fun-filled day out for all the family. And we're right on the bus route, so you can leave the car at home. The Southern Agricultural Show, the local show, Saturday the 27th and Sunday the 28th of July at Orisdale Farm, Ballasalla. Open from 9:30am to 6pm both days, and kids go free. Visit southernshow.org or find us on Facebook for more information. It's a show not to be missed. The Southern Agricultural Show with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The assisted dying bill is due to be read a 3rd time tomorrow in an extra key sitting, and Agenda asks, what's the rush? We also ponder whether Tynwald and government are capable of delivering a bus station in Douglas, why developers need support to build luxury flats in Port Erin, and why Tynwald rejected the opportunity to save money by allowing private members' bills to appear on the government consultation website. That's Agenda this evening at 5:30 on Manx Radio. If you're struggling to understand government spending priorities, this week's Agenda may well be able to help you. Mind you, it might not and all.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
27 minutes before 1. Just a quick word. There are some more Ørsted community consultations in a fortnight's time. Tuesday the 6th of August, they're at the Santander Work Cafe in the Old Market Hall, North Quay in Douglas, from noon till 6. Wednesday the 7th at the Corran Hall in Peel on Derby Road from 2 till 7, and on the Thursday 8th of August at Bradaglen Cafe in Port Erin from 2 till 7. So that's Tuesday the 6th, noon till 6 in Douglas, Wednesday the 7th, 2 till 7 in Peel, and Thursday the 8th, 2 till 7 in Port Erin. They'd like to see you, and pop along there. At least you get a free pen, says Wilf. And Joe's on now. Hi, Joe.
Hello there, Andy.
What's on your mind, Joe?
It's the Ørsted wind farm, the proposed wind farm that may be off the east coast of the island. It actually extends from Douglas Head right through to the north, just north of Mackle Head. Now, this ground, it's 6 miles offshore to 12 miles. And that is a prime area for scallop fishermen at the moment. They all troll there in the winter months, up and down, and for queenies. Now, the scallop fishery and the queenie fishery has earned millions for the Isle of Man government over the years. And this is all going to go for what? For something that's going to cost a fortune for anybody that's having to connect up to it in the end.
When you say it's going to go, I mean, do you know that for certain, Joe? Do you know for certain that this would finish off the scallop fishing industry?
Yes, because all those wind turbines create a vibration, and any fish, any scallop, they all just disappear. They go somewhere else. They'll probably go out of Manx waters. They do move about. It's been a prime area for feeding Ramsey Bay for years and years, and for all we know, the scallops may disappear altogether from Ramsey Bay.
Well, they may, I mean, who knows? They could go somewhere else around the Isle of Man. We don't know. They may just shift away from the wind turbines.
Well, they might, or they might not. I would say they'll go many miles away. But the thing is, as I say, it's a prime area for the scallop fishermen to work in the winter months. They don't have to go too far offshore to work those grounds. And the Isle of Man government don't give a toss about the fishermen at the end of the day. As I say, they've earned long millions of pounds. Every fishing boat has a minimum of 2 crew, and every scallop processor has a minimum of 3 people working in the scallop industry.
So, I mean, as far as that's concerned, then, you sound like you're against the wind turbines.
Yes, very much so.
So what should we do then? Say no to Ørsted if they're going to offer us lots and lots of money?
But how much are we going to get?
Well, I mean, everything's a compromise, isn't it? Everything's a deal in the end, Joe. So, I mean, at the moment we don't know. So if you're saying, and again it's hypothetical, if the scallop industry completely goes, what's it worth to lose the scallop industry if that is indeed what happens?
Well, you can look at it that way if you like, but the electricity, by all accounts, by what I can gather, it's being supported. No one knows who by, but there's boats working out of Barrow-in-Furness serving the Walney field and the Dudden field, and they're all running at a 5,000 loss a day, a £5,000 loss a day for servicing these windmills.
Okay, all right, Joe, we appreciate that. Thanks for that. It would be nice if we got some actual figures, some granular detail, they call it in management speak, if we actually knew what the figures were. And as Will said, you may completely dislike the thought of these 1,000-foot wind turbines, but if somebody said to you, free electricity, what would you say? Free electricity. I'm not saying they would, but at some point there's a deal, isn't there, where the cost and the benefit outweighs the risk and the downside. And at what point do we say deal? That's where you need Noel Edmonds, you see. David's on now. Hi, David.
I want the box with number 6 on.
Thanks.
See if I can win. Listen, I just want to comment on a few things. So I went to the one at Laxey. There was nobody frisking me or searching me or asked me who I was, so I didn't see any security at all at the Laxey one. So I just wanted to dispel that myth. And the other myth, I think, is when I was in government in the DOI, we had presentations on the new commentary for the airport, where the fish were going to be not be able to come around the seaward when they put all those gigantic blocks in that came from Norway.
Yeah.
To me, that's another myth. The other thing, too, is there are fishing areas, close fishing areas, down south over Bradderhead or somewhere. I remember years ago when I was at a small time in Deffa, there are protection areas, and I don't think the government doesn't treat the fishermen poor. I think at the end of the day, it's what we can afford. Don't forget, it's like schemes in government. If we can't afford it, do we actually need it? Maybe we should do a test now and again. We definitely need some security. And Mr. Cannon was on again the other day over the weekend there. The main thing that companies want to be based on the Isle of Man is having our own security, that we can generate our own power, or we get it from somewhere else. And that's where I think, when I went to the exhibition, I was quite convinced. I've weighed it up regarding the planning application down south and the disruption and the maintenance of the turbines in the area. And by the way, windmills make flour, turbines make power. And that's my mantra. And I just want to say that to people out there. Don't look at what's going to happen in a few years' time. And I don't know what the date is when they're going to start, if they get the green light. But don't forget, 100 won't go up in a couple of weeks or a year. It'll take a long time. And can you see where we're going to benefit? Where our service industry, from the shipping side, that's their maintenance and stuff, could be based here. And Andy, the final thing I've got to say actually is, when are we going to put some PV panels on our government buildings, and let's get at least 10%, 5% or whatever?
Well, that will be a statement of intent, as you say. If the government decided to put photovoltaic panels on, solar panels or what have you, or even the ones that heat the hot water, if government actually said this is what we're going to do, we're going to, however much they're going to spend, £5 million, let's just say, on doing this, then it would show willing, surely. But until then, it's all a bit ifs, buts and maybes.
It's wishy-washy. It's pie in the sky. You look at the planners now, and I went to a planning meeting, which I can't talk about yet till it comes into the public domain, where local authorities were to meet, Mr. Butler, and the other lady that was in planning. And the new ethos coming out is to support applications which are going to benefit the nation. So what's going to benefit the nation? Being self-sufficient, which I don't think we'll ever have, getting the planning applications done a lot quicker instead of the one like the fella up north had, Mr. Kelly. 3 years to wait for some nice bungalows, which he's going to give to first-time buyers. Not give, but sell the first-time buyers. I wonder what the politicians are doing while they're going on their summer holidays. Maybe they should all go to Laxey and have a think.
Right. Thanks, David. Thanks for that. It's 18 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. It's Monday. You know what that means? We delve into the 60-year archive of Manx Radio. We've been on the air since 1964, did you know? I didn't know that, Andy. We have. So this year we're stopping off in 2005. Powerboating was an attraction to the Isle of Man for a while. Do you remember when powerboating was the big thing on the island? Well, in 2005, we sent Chris Kinley to the Solent near Southampton to have a trip on one of the high-powered powerboats. So he's back, by the way. Chris Kinley, after Mannin Line finishes today, back in 2005, in the Solent on a powerboat.
Plum Master, where plumbers shop. For supplies, we've got the lot. Ramsey Douglas, come on down. Plum Master, the best around. Gas boilers, pipes and taps, bathroom fittings, stylish rads. Plum Master have all in store and deliver to your door.
For trade and DIY plumbing supplies, visit Plum Master at Haldane Fisher in Douglas and Ramsey. Plum Master, your local, reliable, competitive plumbing supplier.
There's monkeys and meerkats, penguins galore. You can meet with a panda, owls, lemurs and more.
The Currachs Wildlife Park is open 7 days a week. So book your tickets and experiences online now at currachswildlifepark.im.
Achieve your business goals with Nicola Bowker & Co. Embracing the latest accounting technology, Nicola Bowker will help you to keep your accounts totally up to date with all the information you need at the tip of your fingers. Don't be kept in the dark. Come into the light with Nicola Bowker.
This Tuesday here on Manx Radio at the brand new time of 5:30, join Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, for the new series of Countryside.
I popped into the Southern District Agricultural Showfield to see how preparations were coming along, and there's still time to get arts and crafts entries in. I was invited to have a look around the brand new cattery facility that's about to open at the MSPCA in Foxdale, and also I popped along to Polson Park to check in on the Tough Mucker Junior Manx X Games. That's all in Countryside Tuesday here on Manx Radio at 5:30, and don't forget you can download or subscribe to the podcast for free at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Look at that time, it's 1:45 and Stephen's with us. Hi, Stephen.
Good afternoon, Andy, and good afternoon, listeners. A couple of points, if I may. The first one, where I believe the Chief Minister says we've got to have energy security, and therefore that's why we need to build our own turbines. I find that a little bit hard to understand where his reasoning comes from over that. The likelihood of the UK turning off the interconnectors or us not being able to get gas, what I would suggest be a dire situation both for the UK and the island. And it's ironic, isn't it, that as soon as the boat doesn't come, then you see the shelves emptying of food. Now, why do we have to be self-sufficient in energy? And we won't be self-sufficient in any case, because a lot of the expertise to keep these things going will be from off island, I would think. and getting spare parts, etc., etc., and the cost of them would be enormous. So I don't understand this analogy that we've simply got to produce our own energy, and yet the staples that we need for life, we are totally dependent on the UK for getting here and the steam packet. So I don't understand why we have to have one and not the other. So I'm sure everybody notices once the boat stops going for a couple of days, the shelves are empty. That's the first point. But the second point I'd like to speak about is the fact that today in the UK, the new Prime Minister has announced there's going to be a new training organisation to meet skills needs of the next decade. And I think that we're missing a trick. And what they're talking about is having to have less reliance on overseas workers. Now, I'm led to believe that there is a plan to close the training centre, the engineering machine shop in Hills Meadow. And I think that's very short-sighted if that's the case. There's a number of engineering factories here, which I'm sure would depend and need new apprentices coming. And I've read somewhere an electrician wrote that there's no schemes now to help companies employ apprentices. So I think those 2 points seems to me to be, we've got some lack of joined up thinking here of what we need to provide for our trades and industries. And this should go much further. We could try and encourage and recruit our own local trained young people for some of these better positions on the island instead of constantly recruiting off the island.
And there's another point as well, Stephen. I read something today, and it was about the UK, but you can extrapolate it to the Isle of Man. It's the number of students who end up with university degrees and end up doing things that are nowhere near what they've studied for. So surely, if we're going to train people for, we should be training young people for trades sometimes, because it's quite honest. Some students just go to university because they like to go to university, and they come back without too much of a skill that they're going to use in life. Surely we should be training our youngsters, if they are electrically minded or mechanically minded, to get into those trades. That's a job for life.
Oh, absolutely. But possibly the minister, whoever is responsible for the training centre and providing grants or help for companies to take on apprentices and people who want to retrain or train up, maybe she could come on, or they could come on and explain what do we offer. Why is there a possible plan to close the machine shop at Hills Meadow? What is going on? What is our long-term plans? As you say, surely we could try and tailor some of these skills to the needs that we have. Just to leave it to market forces, I think is folly, and we are being let down if that is the case. If all we ever do is import new labour, we should be training our own local labour. It'll help people become socially mobile. If they can have these special training, they'll get better paid jobs. We'll retain our own local staff and have a better Manx character. So it's a plus in my mind if we do provide the money to train people. And I think that's probably one of the reasons people sometimes don't want to provide the money to train, because it's cheaper to recruit in off island. And it's the same for the UK.
Interesting.
They are trying to stop this. I think we should do as well.
Okay. All right, Stephen, we appreciate that. Thanks for calling today. Good to hear from you. Tomorrow, by the way, it's open line, of course, today, and we're open line on Wednesday, but tomorrow David Quirk is on. David Quirk is the Energy Transition Advisor at the Danish Offshore Technology Centre. So we'll be talking to David about Danish offshore technology. He's also the Research Director for the Manx Geological Survey and Chairman of our Energy and Sustainability Centre. So he's on Mannin Line tomorrow. David Quirk, if you want to talk to David about electricity, how we're going to get electricity on the Isle of Man, what are we going to do if we're going to decarbonise or what what have you, how it's going to work and how it works in Denmark at the moment. Bonzo's with us now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hi there. Yes, I shall look forward to listening to David tomorrow. I might even call in very quickly because, of course, I realise that the clock's running down. Ørsted. Now, they're 1,000-foot turbines. I can't see that getting a great reception from planning because I think the initial scheme was for the usual kind of 400 foot high, as in the top of the blades when they're going round, not the top of the tower. Those original ones, which are about 5 megawatts each. So, yes, I think there's an area of difficulty there.
I mean, do they need planning for an offshore wind farm? Do they need planning for an offshore wind farm?
I believe that's a moot point, but I believe so. Yes, okay. the DEFRA do have an input on that.
Okay, yeah.
So, anyway, there's a reason. Now, of course, UK, unlike America, UK is now going hell for leather for wind power, offshore wind power in particular. And obviously, there aren't that many sites for offshore wind power. So, Ørsted, I think, are looking to get 3 times as much power out of the same acreage, yes, which you would do with these 1,000-foot turbines because they normally output about 15 megawatts each. And they would then get subsidies from GB Energy, the new state renewables energy company that Labour is setting up. But they're also going to try and squeeze the toothpaste tube at both ends, or it seems like they're doing, because it would seem by various offers of things like input of electricity to the grid, which I think, technically speaking, I think is somewhat difficult. And it's rather more difficult than Ørsted, I think, are actually portraying. With that, trying to cut down the amount of lease payment that they would give us now, or that we would charge them. As I said, from the auctions for the Crown Estates wind farm sites, that was at the top of the market, but they got 200 million each for those a year, for 10 years, in what's called the AFL phase. So, allowing for that, we should really get 100 million a year for that. Maybe 80 million a year at the absolute bottom of what we'd be prepared to accept. However, nobody seems to know what the figure is being negotiated. I would suspect it's a very closely guarded secret, commercial confidentiality.
Well, 100 million will solve a lot of problems, wouldn't it, Bonzo?
Well, 100 million a year for 10 years. That's why I've always advocated it.
All right, Bonzo. Okay, well, call back tomorrow. I'm sure David Quirk's got plenty to say. We appreciate it, Bonzo. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Right, 6 minutes before 1, we're off to the Solar with Chris Kinley on the powerboat. So tomorrow, David Quirk, Energy Transition Advisor at the Danish Offshore Technology Centre, the Manx Geological Survey and the Energy and Sustainability Centre. Green deal or no deal? And what's going to happen? What's going to happen to our UNESCO biosphere status? I mean, can it survive? That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Thanks to you for your attention. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
WINT 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
For some years, powerboat racing was a popular spectacle in and around the island. From the large round island powerboats to the Honda Formula 4-stroke powerboat series, which first appeared here in 2005. We were told Douglas Bay offered the challenge of the ever-changing conditions of the Irish Sea, with the waters unpredictable and the racing intense. Chris Kinley was packed off from Manx Radio down to the Solent to get behind the wheel of one of these powerboats.
Well, here we are, we're on the water, we're doing some high-speed left-hand turns, doing around about 45, 46 knots at the moment, which is probably, well, about 44, 43 miles per hour. Very, very busy, lot of traffic here today on the Solent. To my left is the Isle of Wight, straight ahead and down where we were earlier on is Southampton and Portsmouth, about half a mile and a half, 2 miles maybe back. I'm just going to make a left turn. Got to watch out for lobster pots because it is a working seawater too. Obviously, seeing quite a few fishing boats here. It's just about to throw it into the turn now, so just have a listen to this audio. Forgive the commentary there.
Right, here we go. As we approach, keep the boat nice and level and keep the pace on. Into the left a bit more. Keep the bow. That's it. Got a bit of wash here. Keep going left a bit more and keep it going. Keep the pace on. That's good. Right, keep the gas on all the way up now. Orange marks on your bow. Got it? Looking a little bit clearer at the moment. Okay, keep as you are on this buoy now, straight ahead. This one's about a 90-degree turn. This is the one that you were doing pretty well at. We're approaching it at about 50 now. Begin to point in now. Straighten up. That's it. That's it. That wasn't bad actually, kept the pace on. Yeah. You can feel when you turn tight into the turn, it grabs the boat a bit and takes the pace off.
Yeah. If you counteract it though, it kind of helps it, doesn't it?
Exactly. You find that the more level the boat is, the less hooking you'll get out of it. And the less it'll scrub off your speed. But of course, this is great when you're out here on your own taking the buoys, but you'll be out there with about 14, 15 other boats. And it's bound to be a few of them on the same turn as you.
Yeah.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.